Did you walk away from your hypnosis session wondering, wait, did that even do anything? You're not alone, especially if you like to track your progress, overanalyze your emotions, and give yourself a grade for your healing. In this video, I'm breaking down exactly what to expect after your hypnosis session, what to look for, what not to panic about, and how to stop micromanaging your transformation. If you've been second guessing your growth, you're exactly where you need to be because I'm going to show you the subtle signs that your subconscious is already shifting. So if you're wondering, did that even work? Take a breath, because this is a very common reaction, especially if you're the type of person to overthink or put pressure on yourself to do healing the right way. I work with a lot of high achieving women who feel like they need to walk away from a session with a gold star or this huge emotional breakthrough to prove to themselves that the work is actually working. But healing, especially the subconscious work, doesn't work on a performance scale. When you're doing the subconscious work, the thing most people struggle with is less about if hypnosis works and more about struggling with how they expect the changes to show up in their life. This is where the perfectionistic mind tries to sneak in and grade the healing. But the subconscious mind doesn't report to your conscious mind like that. And you don't get an instant notification that says, oh, rewiring complete. And when you don't feel different right away, or you're not able to actually tangibly name how you're changing, your brain goes, see, I knew it, it's not working. But that's actually not true. So I want to break this down for you because you will sabotage your own healing when it's actually working. So first and foremost, if you haven't done subconscious work before, the healing that happens in the subconscious work is unlike any other modality, because what you are used to is trying so hard to make changes and coming up against a certain level of resistance. So you're used to seeing yourself making changes because you've hit the resistance, overcame the resistance, and then made it out on the other side. But when you're doing the subconscious work, that resistance is gone. That's the whole point of the subconscious work, is that it removes the uphill battle of the changes you're trying to make. And instead the changes end up you end up cruising through the changes. So what I see with my clients is because that resistance isn't there, there's no actual tangible thing that they see to prove to themselves that they're actually changing in the ways that they want to. Meaning that the changes are happening way more effortlessly and natural, that it slips under the radar, and then they're just acting differently, and they're actually acting in these healed ways, and they're moving forward, but they're not noticing the ways that they're moving forward and connecting the dots back to the subconscious work, because they're so used to that resistance being the gauge of how much they've moved forward. So this is something that I have to constantly remind my clients, that this healing provides a different type of change. And because of that, you can't expect the changes to look and feel the same way as all of the other modalities you've tried. So want to put that out there first so that you can have that level of understanding as you move forward. And then I want to give you a framework to use, because I know my clients, they are high achieving women and they want to do their healing right. And at the end of the day, I don't want your changes flying under the radar. I want you seeing how far you're coming. I want you acknowledging and realizing the changes and the growth that you're making, because that feeds into your development, that feeds into your evolution, that empowers you, that keeps you moving forward. So this is actually really important to start to notice what I call the subconscious breadcrumbs. And subconscious breadcrumbs are tiny shifts that people overlook when doing the subconscious work, because they happen so subtly, naturally, effortlessly, and they fly under the radar. Like maybe you respond a little bit differently in a conversation. Maybe saying no becomes easier and it's not so dramatic. You're not feeling the guilt, so it's able to flow out of you easier. Maybe you don't spiral as fast when chaos happens in your life or something stressful comes up. Maybe your energy feels lighter and you can't actually explain why. You can't put it into words. One of my clients recently told me that she almost sent an over-explaining text, but she caught herself in the moment and then deleted it. That's a subconscious breadcrumb. Another said that she felt super calm in a moment that used to trigger her into deep anxiety, but she didn't realize that she actually approached the conversation calmer until days later. These shifts are small, but they are proof that the subconscious work is working. It is so important to bring these to the surface because without all of the drama that we used to cause ourselves, I find that my clients are like, I don't know why, but I was calmer in this situation. I don't know why, but I just thought that I wanted to delete the text instead. The I don't know why is not chance. It is not happenstance. It is the exact result of doing the subconscious work. But because when you work with the subconscious, the changes that you make feel like they are you, because they are you, but they feel like a natural evolution of your thinking. You're no longer throwing down resistance and avoidance and procrastination that used to be your guideline of success. Oh, look, I stopped procrastinating that thing. Cool, I made it. I changed. Cool, I caught myself getting super anxious, but I got myself out of it. I think I'm moving forward. These are old ways of identifying growth. They do not exist within the subconscious work because you no longer procrastinate. You no longer avoid. The changes happen effortlessly and naturally. They feel like a natural part of you. So we need a new framework for pinpointing how our changes are coming about in our life. This is what I want you to look out for instead. There are 4 things: immediate shifts, delayed shifts, subtle shifts, and behavioral shifts. And we're gonna go down quickly one by one. Let's start with immediate shifts. What this might feel like is you walk away feeling differently. You feel lighter, clearer, more empowered, excited. You might have a new insight, or you might feel more hopeful or a little less stuck. These shifts are the easiest to identify, but they're not the only sign of change. And I'll give you an example of what this feels like. A client told me that she had a mental weight feel like she came off of her after a session. Or another client said that they felt excited about taking the step forward. When they came in, they felt really anxious about it. That immediate shift, that's easy to notice. And then there are the delayed shifts, either in your thinking or like situationally. And what this feels like is you don't recognize the change until you're in a familiar situation, a familiar trigger that you end up treating or acting differently than you would have in the past. So you might not recognize this shift immediately after the session until it presents itself into your life. Your mind kind of connects the dots, but they don't actually show up until later. And this can look 2 different ways. It can be delayed in that the situation that presents itself is delayed after the session, or it could be that the situation plays out and then you're delayed in how you connect the dots later. So maybe, the situation plays out and then 2 days later you're like, oh my gosh, I handled that so differently. Wow, I didn't realize that at the time. So the delayed shifts can happen in both ways. And an example of this is a client didn't realize that her anxiety was lowering after a stressful week until the stressful week was done. And she was able to look back and she was like, wow, that was kind of stressful, but I didn't spiral like I used to. Interesting. Delayed shift. Another example of the other way delayed shifts show up are a week goes by after our sessions and you get into conflict with a partner and you find yourself speaking your voice easier than you did in the past. So it's a delayed shift that it happens after the session and the old trigger presents itself at that time. So it's a delayed shift in that way too. And then there are subtle shifts. So either energetically or like behaviorally micro moments. And what this looks like is you're not sure what changed, but something just feels kind of different. So like you're not over explaining, you pause before you people please. You don't feel as drained after a conversation. You feel like you go home and you have a little bit more energy. So these are subtle changes that you're like, interesting. I can't really put my finger on it. I can't really make sense of it, but something does feel different, either energetically or you're like, oh yeah, I did do that different. That's interesting. I wonder why. You can't really like put your finger on it. These are golds because just because you can't name it doesn't mean that it's insignificant. These are usually the biggest signs that the changes are integrating because you're acting differently without even realizing it or thinking about it. So these are golds. And then there's the behavioral shifts, like your actions and your habits. And what you might notice with these is that you start doing things that used to feel hard, but feel like they take less effort now. So maybe you say no without the guilt, or you show up more authentically, or you feel like you can kind of show up a little bit more unapologetically like yourself. You don't need a pep talk to finally allow yourself to rest. These are more in your habits and your actions. And an example of this is a client who used to feel like they had to rehearse every conversation before they had it. After doing the subconscious work, they were actually just able to have the conversation. And it wasn't dramatic, it felt natural, it felt normal. So that was a habit, that was an action change that resulted from the subconscious work. It was behavioral, and it's easier to identify because they're more bigger behavioral moments than the subtle micro behavioral changes in the subtle changes. So those are the 4 things that I want you to pay attention to, and you don't need to pay attention to them, but if you're the type of person who feels like they need to have proof, then I want you to use these 4 things to have more of a curiosity. Instead of having a spreadsheet that you're tracking every change, I want you to more so every week just kind of stop and pause and ask yourself with curiosity, did I notice anything differently this week? Did I feel anything different? Did I show up a little bit different? Did I act a little bit different than maybe I would have in the past? And more of a reflective moment versus a perfectionistic, like trying to prove that you're getting better. I don't want you to force it or have to overanalyze. So think of it more so as like a progress detective and ask yourself, where do I feel 5% lighter than last week? What did I handle differently this week without even trying? So drop a comment and let me know what breadcrumbs you're already noticing. I'd love to celebrate them with you. And if you haven't noticed anything, drop a comment and tell me what you're hoping will shift. And I might be able to help you spot what's already unfolding. Ultimately, what I really hope this framework helps you do is let go of the pressure to prove that the work is working. There's really no right or wrong way for this work to evolve into your life. You don't need this huge, big emotional release or this huge light bulb moment to prove that the work is working for you. Most times, the biggest shifts are the things that you don't do anymore, like not reacting, not spiraling, not shutting down. So you're not necessarily going to notice those things. And I have to remind you that you started the subconscious work so that way your healing could become easier for you. So it is becoming easier for you, and allow it to become easy. Can you allow your healing to be easy, to be natural, to be effortless? Can you put your guard down instead of scanning for the ways to prove that you're not good enough and that it's not working for you? Can you set that guard down and actually step into the integration of it? Can you actually step into the embodiment of it? Can you allow yourself to just be evolved, to have grown without it meaning anything about your process? Can you trust that your subconscious is still working and doing the work under the surface, even though your conscious mind may not be able to label it or put words to it? Can you trust that you planted something and that it's growing beneath the surface and it will show up when it's ready? So if you love this breakdown, that means that you're serious about your healing, which means I think you'll love this deep dive about limiting beliefs. It'll show you exactly what's standing in the way of your healing process and would make great topics to bring into session. I'm going to link that video right here, and I'll see you over in that video.